Contamination comes from a variety of places. Contaminants are found in the animals we use for food and in air, water, and dirt. They can occur naturally in food such as bones and fish. Food can be contaminated on purpose, but most food is contaminated accidentally. Examples of accidental contamination include 1. Food handlers who don't wash their hands after using the restroom and then contaminate food and surfaces with feces from their fingers. And 2. Food handlers who pass contaminants through illness. Contamination can occur through the fecal-oral route of contamination. So we will take one of the examples from the last slide. Food handlers who do not wash their hands after using the restroom may contaminate food and surfaces with feces from their fingers. Once the food that the food handler touched is eaten, a foodborne illness may result. This is called the fecal-oral route of contamination. Contaminants may come from a variety of other places as well, as shown on the slide. According to the FDA, there are over 40 kinds of bacteria, viruses, parasites, and molds that can occur in food and cause a foodborne illness. Of these, 6 have been singled out by the FDA. These have been dubbed the Big Six because they are highly contagious and can cause severe illness. It is important for the exam that you study the details of these Big Six pathogens. In this chapter, we will review them in further detail. The symptoms of a foodborne illness vary depending on which illness a person has. But most victims of foodborne illness share some common symptoms. Not every person who is sick from a foodborne illness will have all of these symptoms, nor are the symptoms of a foodborne illness limited to this list. How quickly foodborne illness symptoms appear in a person is known as the onset time of the illness. Onset times depend on the type of foodborne illness a person has, and they can range from 30 minutes to as long as 6 weeks. How severe the illness is can also vary, from mild diarrhea to death. Fat Tom, like the video discussed, is the variety of conditions that bacteria thrive in. F is for food, since most bacteria need nutrients to survive. TCS foods especially support the growth of bacteria better than other types of food. A is for acidity. pH is the measure used for acidity. Bacteria grow best in an environment of a neutral to slightly acidic pH. The first T is for temperature. 41 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit is known as the temperature danger zone, especially between 70 to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. It is important that we hold foods either above or below these temperature ranges to help limit the rapid growth of harmful bacteria. The second T is for time. Bacteria need time to multiply. The more time in the danger zone, the greater the chance they multiply and increase the risk of harm. O is for oxygen. Some bacteria need oxygen to grow, which is aerobic, while others grow without oxygen, anaerobic. How to remember the difference between aerobic and anaerobic is that when you do aerobic exercises, you are typically breathing very heavily and need a lot of oxygen. M is for moisture. Bacteria grow well in food with high levels of moisture. The amount of moisture available in food for this growth is called water activity, AW. The AW scale ranges from 0 to 1.0. The higher the value, the more available moisture in the food. For example, water has a water activity of 1.0. Four major bacteria have been identified by the FDA that cause severe illness and are highly contagious. Highlight this information for the exam. Food handlers with illnesses from these bacteria can never work in a food service operation while they are sick. These four bacteria are included in the FDA's Big 6 pathogens as well that you will need to memorize. Now we will go over each major bacteria that causes foodborne illness in detail. You may want to create flashcards to help you study for this portion of the exam. Salmonella typhi lives only in humans. People with typhoid fever carry the bacteria in their bloodstream and intestinal tract. Eating only a small amount of this bacteria can make a person sick. The severity of symptoms depends on the health of the person and the number of bacteria eaten. The bacteria are often in a person's feces for weeks after symptoms have ended. Many farm animals carry non-typhoidal salmonella naturally. Eating only a small amount of these bacteria can make a person sick. The severity of symptoms depends on the health of the person and the number of bacteria eaten. The bacteria are often in a person's feces for weeks after symptoms have ended. Shigella is found in the feces of humans with the illness. Most illnesses occur when people eat or drink contaminated food or water. Flies can also transfer the bacteria from feces to food. Eating only a small amount of this bacteria can make a person sick. High levels of the bacteria are often in a person's feces for weeks after symptoms have ended. Shiga toxin producing E. coli can be found in the intestines of cattle. It is also found in infected people. The bacteria can contaminate meat during slaughtering. Eating only a small amount of the bacteria can make a person sick. Once eaten, it produces toxins in the intestines, which cause the illness. The bacteria are often in a person's feces for weeks after symptoms have ended. The FDA has identified 2 viruses that are highly contagious and cause severe illness. These 2 viruses are included in the FDA's Big 6 pathogens. Food handlers must not work in a food operation if they are diagnosed with an illness from these viruses. Hepatitis A is mainly found in the feces of people infected with it. The virus can contaminate water and many types of food. It is commonly linked with ready-to-eat food. However, It has also been linked with shellfish from contaminated water. The virus is often transferred to food when infected food handlers touch food or equipment with fingers that have feces on them. Eating only a small amount of the virus can make a person sick. An infected person may not show symptoms for weeks, but can be very infectious. Cooking does not destroy hepatitis A. Like hepatitis A, norovirus is commonly linked with ready-to-eat food. It has also been linked with contaminated water. Norovirus is often transferred to food when infected food handlers touch food or equipment with fingers that have feces on them. Eating only a small amount of norovirus can make a person sick. It is also very contagious. People become contagious within a few hours after eating it. The virus is often in a person's feces for a few days after symptoms have ended. Some toxins are naturally associated with certain plants, mushrooms, and seafood. Toxins are a natural part of some fish. Other toxins, such as histamine, are made by pathogens on the fish when it is time temperature abused. This can occur in tuna, bonito, mackerel, and mahi-mahi. Some fish become contaminated when they eat smaller fish that have eaten a toxin. One of these toxins is Sagittara toxin. It can be found in barracuda, snapper, grouper, and amberjack. Shellfish such as oysters can be contaminated when they eat marine algae that have a toxin. Toxins cannot be destroyed by cooking or freezing. The most important way to prevent a foodborne illness is to purchase plants, mushrooms, and seafood from approved and reputable suppliers. It is also important to control time and temperature when handling raw fish. Now we will talk about contaminants in food, starting with chemical contaminants. The chemicals you use must be approved for use in a food service operation. They must also be necessary for the maintenance of the facility. In addition to the guidelines in the video, the slide shows additional measures to prevent chemicals from contaminating food. Physical contaminants may result in mild to fatal injuries. This could include cuts, dental damage, and choking. Bleeding and pain may be the most outward symptoms. Purchase food from approved, reputable suppliers to prevent physical contamination, and closely inspect the food you receive. Take the steps to make sure no physical contaminants can get into it. This includes making sure that food handlers practice good personal hygiene. So far, you have learned about methods to prevent the accidental contamination of food, but you also must take steps to stop people who are actually trying to contaminate it. This may include the groups listed on the slide. These people may try to tamper with your food using biological, chemical, or physical contaminants. They may even use radioactive materials. Attacks might occur anywhere in the food supply chain, but they are usually focused on a specific food item, process, or business. The best way to protect food is to make it difficult as possible for someone to tamper with it. For this reason, A food defense program should deal with the points in your operation where the food is at risk. The FDA has created a tool that can be used to develop a food defense program. It is based on the acronym ALERT. It can be used to help you identify the points in your operation where the food is at risk. Assure. Make sure that products you receive are safe from safe sources. Supervise product deliveries. Use approved suppliers who practice food defense, and request delivery vehicles are locked and sealed. Look. Monitor the security of products in the facility and limit access to prep and storage areas. Locking storage areas is one of the ways to do this. Create a system for handling damaged products. Store chemicals in a secure location and train staff to spot food defense threats. Employees. Know who is in your facility and limit access to prep and storage areas. Identify all visitors and verify credentials. Conduct background checks on staff that are hired into the operation. Reports. Keep information related to food defense accessible. Receiving logs, office files and documents, staff files, and random food defense self-inspections. Threat. Identify what you will do and whom you will contact if there is suspicious activity or a threat to your operation. Hold any product you suspect to be contaminated. Contact your regulatory authority immediately and maintain an emergency contact list. Now we will discuss responding to a foodborne illness outbreak. When responding to a suspect complaint, it is important to ask the person making the complaint for general contact information and to identify the food that was eaten. Also ask for a description of symptoms and when the person first got sick. Gather as much detail as possible. If you suspect an outbreak, then contact the local regulatory authority. Remember, an outbreak is the result of 2 or more people with the same symptoms after eating the same food. The next step is to set the suspected product aside if any remains. Include a label with "Do not use" and "Do not discard" on it, as shown in the photo. Log information about the suspected product. This might include a product description, production date, and lot number. The sell-by date and package size should also be recorded. Maintain a list of food handlers scheduled at the time of the suspected contamination. These staff members may be subject to an interview and sampling by investigators. They should also be interviewed immediately by management about their health status. Cooperate with regulatory authorities in the investigation, provide appropriate documentation, and you may be asked to provide temperature logs, HACCP documents, staff files, etc. Review food handling procedures to identify if standards are not being met or procedures are not working. Now we will discuss food allergies. A food allergen is a protein in food or ingredient that some people are sensitive to. These proteins occur naturally There is a difference between food intolerances and food allergies. In a true food allergy, when enough of the allergen is eaten, an allergic reaction can occur. This is when the immune system mistakenly considers the allergen to be harmful and attacks the food protein. Food intolerances typically lead to discomforts, while a true food allergy can be life-threatening since the immune system is responding to a threat. There are specific signs that a customer is having an allergic reaction. To protect your customers, you should be able to recognize these signs and know what to do. You also should know the types of food that most often cause allergic reactions to help prevent them from happening. Food labels are an important tool to use to identify allergens in products that you have purchased. Federal law requires manufactured products containing one or more of the big 8 allergens to clearly identify them on the ingredient label. The allergen may be included in the common name of the food, such as buttermilk, or it may be shown in parentheses after the ingredient. Often, allergens will be shown in a contains statement. Your staff should be able to tell customers about menu items that contain potential allergens. At minimum, have one person available per shift to answer customers' questions about menu items. When customers say they have a food allergy or intolerance, your staff should take it seriously. Tell customers how the item is prepared. Sauces, marinades, and garnishes often contain allergens. For example, peanut butter is sometimes used as a thickener in sauces or marinades. This information is critical to a customer with a peanut allergy. Tell customers if the food that they are allergic to is in the menu item. Identify any secret ingredients. For example, your operation may have a house specialty that includes an allergen. Suggest menu items that do not contain the food that the customer is allergic to. Clearly mark or otherwise indicate the order for the guest with the identified food allergy. This is done to inform the kitchen staff of the guest's food allergy. Confirm the allergen special order with the kitchen staff when picking up the food. Make sure no garnishes or other items containing the allergen touch the plate. Food should be hand-delivered to guests with allergies. Delivering food separately from the other food delivered to the table will help prevent contact with food allergens. In addition to the guidelines identified in the video, kitchen staff can prevent cross-contact by following the information presented on the slide. And that concludes Chapter 2. Please use the ServSafe Food Manager book, 7th edition, to apply your knowledge with the information posted on the slide for extra practice.